Hey, I'm Cyclone, and today I want to talk about two things. First of all, I want to talk about why I think Affliction is a really great league, and why it is regarded by many people as a great league, and second, why I think the next league will be regarded as bad. Now, I will get to the second thing later, and if you just want to care about that part, there will be a timestamp for it, but first, before I even get to the first part, I need to clarify something. This is a video where I share my opinion. Now, I'm very well aware that many people will be agreeing with or disagreeing with me, and some people will be agreeing with me. I don't know how many will actually agree with me, but I openly invite everybody to discuss your opinions and have an open discussion about this. You can discuss this with me with the comments, you can discuss this with me on my Discord via DMs if you want a private discussion, or open discussion via the designated channel. If there is enough people that want to talk about this, I will make a designated channel for this, otherwise we can use the general channel. So that being said, let's take a look at why I think Affliction is a great league. Now I have here my 4 points for a great league. 1 to 3, and then the most important step 0, which I want to talk after I explain the first 3. So Affliction is a fun mechanic to engage with. Now hear me out before you instantly say it isn't. Affliction are two parts. First there is a Wildwood, and the Wildwood I have to say is not that fun to engage with. At least kind of. If you enjoy thinking, finding the locations, maximizing your risk, you're getting towards the second part of the mechanic, which is map juicing. And that part I think is fun. Thinking, taking your time, maximizing the risk you gather, maybe even going with a duo so you can gather more risk, so you can find more orbs, you can spend more time in there, maximize your wisp count. That part I think is fun. But finding the encounters that you're specifically looking for to get your senses, unlock the senses, or get specific vendors, vendor offers because you're an SSF, that part wasn't fun. I can say that. So Affliction overall though, because for those that really enjoyed it, it was fun to engage with, because those are the people that focus on the second part of it, the juicing part likely, and the people that focus on the first part of it, just get their senses and do something else, those likely didn't enjoy Affliction as much. Now again, there will be people that completely disagree with what I'm saying because they maybe enjoyed the first part, or maybe they enjoyed the second part for a different reason. But again, any of this open to discuss. Feel free to discuss it with me, share your opinion with me. But overall, I think Affliction is fun to engage with if you enjoy the map juicing part, if you enjoy the thinking, and if you enjoy the loot that gets offered as a reward. Getting to step 2, it has to be rewarding at all stages of the league. Now it is arguable that Affliction isn't rewarding in the early stages of the league. However, I did a 0 to Mage Blood run, and my main income, even higher than Chaos Recipe, or actually maybe equal to Chaos Recipe, was Affliction corpses. So I went in every map, I went into Affliction, and I've been looking to find corpses in there, the corpse vendor in there, the warlock in there, and I checked the corpses, and there were a few corpses that were like 10 chaos, and then there were a few corpses that were a few chaos, and then there were sometimes a corpse 100 chaos to a divine. And these corpses are really great for early currency. And once you get to the mid game, you either are not going to invest further into the strategy, but if you invest further into the strategy, if you invest into your build and you start running juiced Affliction maps or Magic Find juiced Affliction maps, which is the mid and the late game interaction of the strategy, there it becomes really rewarding. So it fulfills step number 1 for those that enjoy in-map content, that enjoy juicing the maps, that enjoy having difficulty in the maps and pushing the characters. And step number 2, it is rewarding at all stages of the game. In the first step with the corpses or with the vendors, and the second step with the Magic Find juicing or non-Magic Find juicing, just the juicing. Then number 3, no complicated setup to maximize reward. Now, if a league mechanic needs you to run a specific build, then run the map in this specific manner, you need to do 50 steps first before you then can finally get your loot. That's not gonna be really fun to interact with. It's gonna be way too complicated, way too tedious, and just not gonna be good interaction. But if it's just, okay, have the specific setup, you maybe need to look out for 1 or 2 things. For example, with magic finding, run the map first, get your altars, then do the mechanics, or prioritize the specific mechanics over other mechanics, don't one-shot the Abyss Spire, then that is not too complicated to do, and you can have a great time while doing it, because it's just a few things to keep in mind, not thousands things to keep in mind. Let's say the league mechanic needs to do the following. You need to go into the map, you need to run the map once first to find the altars, then you need to run it a second time to trigger a league mechanic, a specific one. Let's say for some reason you need to trigger Affliction first, then you need to run the map a third time, do all the other league mechanics, but keep the rares alive, then you need to gather the rares, and finally you need to kill the rares with a separate skill. That would be too complicated to do, that it would ruin the fun of the mechanic, even if it would be the most rewarding way and it would result in mirrors. Now again, some people will still do it. Some people will swim in the mirrors because they interact with this complicated setup with the mechanic. But that are the people that either enjoy this specifically because of the complicatedness it has, or those are the people that just care about the currency and don't mind the complicated being because they're gonna have the fun afterwards. But in general, for many people, that will be where the league mechanic stops becoming fun and they'd rather do something else that is slightly suboptimal, but is at least still fun to them. And that brings me to the final point that isn't connected with those three, but it's a prerequisite to make a league that is considered good becoming a great league. So it needs to be in one extreme end of the spectrum. This is a very simple spectrum or very simple graph. We have out-of-map mechanics, we have in-map mechanics, we have crafting mechanics. Now you could make this even more detailed. You could add build in there, you could add magic find insert there, you could insert consistent strategies like essence or beasts or legion. You could say it needs to be build creating, and you could say it needs to be crafting. It could be hideout crafting, so it gives crafting currency, or it needs to be a mechanic that is bossing related. It needs to be something that is out of map, but it's killing a lot of trash mobs. So there's many different subsections you can make of additional lines I could add here, but this is just a simple, just to explain my point. To be a really great league mechanic that is remembered as a really great league, and people are excited when it gets mentioned, and hey, Affliction is returning, people gonna be like, yay, Affliction is back, more magic finding. Because that is what Affliction is gonna be remembered for the absurd amount of magic finding and juicing it offered. If I'm going to say Sanctum, well, people gonna not be like, oh cool, I can run Sanctum every 10 maps. No, people gonna be like, yeah, I can just push Sanctum throughout. It's an out-of-map mechanic, I don't need to do any maps. Same for Heist, I don't need to engage with maps at all. I can just run my Heist over and over again. Now, assuming Trade League and you can buy them, not assuming SSF. Or if I mention Crucible or Harvest, the crafters are gonna rejoice, not the map runners. So there's always gonna be, for a league mechanic to be really, really great, it needs to be for one section of gamers that really enjoy that specific thing. Crafting, out of map, in map, consistent farming, magic finding, anyway, etc. That was a word, not anyway. So, this is what I think is the most important for a league to be great compared to good. So, with that being said though, why do I say that the next league is gonna be bad? Because Affliction is up here for many, many people, for several different reasons. They're gonna think this league is really, really great. It is still a heavy outlier in terms of many things. Because Affliction is being so great, because Affliction is a magic find league that resulted in a ton of currency for many people, it resulted in also something else. And that is a very, very interesting market state. Let me give you 2 examples. 5-way sets, if I remember it correctly, are going for 1 for a divine. Normally they go for 4 for a divine. Bees, quite camerals, I sold them between 4 to 5 divines this league. They normally go up to 2 divines. So things that aren't farmed as a result of Affliction magic find farming or magic find juicing are way more expensive than in other leagues, because divines are worth less because you get a ton of divines. But you also get a ton of other things like chaos, like uniques, like mageblood, like headhunters, like mirrors. Now mirrors is a special case because they are always worth as much. It's the highest things you can copy and they are very sought after this league. But things that get from Affliction, or from Affliction magic finding, are not worth as much as things that can't get there, like the beasts, like 5-way emblems, or like the original Sin Ring from Sanctum. So those things are gonna be more expensive, and the things Affliction offers or Magic Finding offers with Affliction is gonna be worth less. So for a person that just started the game, they're gonna have a great time. They had a great time, or still have a great time this league, because everything is so cheap. They have an easy way to get their stuff. The characters geared. They can get into the end game, and they can encounter things that they normally couldn't have encountered in their first league. But or people that know part of the game and now they are farming not even magic finding but or anything, they're making so much currency because it just everything makes like double the currency it would normally make, and just having a great time farming currency. They maybe got their first headhunter, their first mage blood, or they gotten their first mirror, and they just having an amazing time in the league. But next league, where we're going to go back to a normal state, assuming it's not going to be an even more extreme league in a different corner, which I do hope it is, but likely for those people that had a very fun time in this league with a very in-map focus are not going to have a fun time next league, where the focus is going to be on crafting, or maybe it's going to be on build creation, or it's going to be an out-of-map mechanic where it's just not their area that they enjoy. But also, because the league is likely going to be different, the prices of things are going to normalize again. So even if they are okay with running not an in-map mechanic, they're gonna be like, why is this so expensive? It was worth nothing last league. I can't afford this. I can't get currency. Everything I sell is worth nothing. Everything I want to buy is costing way more. I'm not getting currency. I'm not getting maps. I can't get my character. I feel so weak. What is going on? That is going to be a complaint I can see happening next league for a big section of new players that got into the game, or beginner players that got deeper into the game. And then there's going to be the players that are just focused on in-map mechanics, and they are going to be like, I don't want to engage with crafting, I don't want to engage with out-of-map, I'm not having a great time with the new league mechanic, so I'm basically playing standard, and everything is going to be more expensive and unaffordable compared to last league. So to combine that is going to be my expectation for the next league for many people. And to top all of that up, because Affliction was that extreme, the drop to normal is going to be perceived as even worse than normal. I have a really good example that isn't PoE related. In Magic the Gathering, we had a block called the Urza's, Urza's Trilogy, Urza block, basically, because Urza was a character that was turning around in the block in the story, but that doesn't matter. What matters is that block included very, very powerful cards. Basically a league that was really, really extreme, and it followed 3 leagues that were all really, really extreme, all really, really powerful. And then the league afterwards, or the leagues afterwards, they all dropped down. They were back to the normal power level, but because they were from that high of power level of cards, they not suddenly had to play with worse cards, with weaker cards. They now felt like, oh, this is so sad, where did all the power go, I don't like this. So, and I think the same is going to happen here. If a league is very extreme in one end, it's going to be perceived badly by people that enjoyed that extreme end if the next league isn't in the same extreme of end. Legion was an extreme mapping map. Blight was more of an out-of-map mechanic, but it was very different to Legion. It was slower, you needed to stop, you needed to defend the pump, you needed to get the loot after you get to the oil. It was overall, I think it was a really great league. I had fun in that league, but I also really loved Legion League. And it was a completely different approach than Legion League, so the people that really loved Legion League didn't enjoy Blight as much, because it was different. And that was an okay jump, but this time from Affliction to what we're gonna jump next is, I think, more like the MTG example jump. It's gonna be from very powerful to normal, or maybe a bit weaker, or maybe a bit more powerful than normal, but it's gonna be a very big difference from what they experienced in Affliction League, resulting in not that great of an experience, resulting in them considering the league as bad. Now, I'm likely gonna be wrong, or maybe I'm gonna be wrong, not likely. And to clarify again, this is going to be for people that enjoy different kinds of the game, different parts of the game. And they're going to disagree with what I said today. Or they're going to feel Lex League is going to be great and Affliction wasn't great. But that's the entire point. This league is great because it is a really extreme case of an in-map mechanic, especially for magic finding, especially for juicing, making your character strong. It also introduced the Valdo maps, another great content in the game that was all about doing very powerful builds, very specific things, and just in a different approach than Affliction League mechanic. So this was all about making powerful characters, but next league might be different. But we will see. And all that being said, again, open to discussion, give me your opinions. I'm really curious what you think about this. And I will see you either in my next video or when I'm back live streaming on Twitch, which I do plan, I just can't promise because at the moment I own like 2-3 hours at a time and I don't feel like that's enough to stream. All that being said, goodbye.